Have you ever been invited, gone to a party, birthday party, graduation party, and just never really felt it? You know, I mean, intellectually you were happy for the person, whoever it was, but, you know, like it wasn't your party, you know, and you got to the happy birthday song maybe, and you went, "A happy birthday to you." I bring that up, I just wonder if perhaps maybe that is how you experience Easter. You know, because it's a wonderful story. You just heard it. You know, the tomb is empty. You know, the disciples, the ladies, they get to the tomb. They find it empty. You know, in some versions of the story, there's an angel there that announces that Jesus is risen. You know, it's just a terrific story. But, you know, it's like a terrific story in our heads. Do you really have any feel for it? Does it mean anything to you today? Now, here? Now, of course, you know my answer to that question is yes. So let me see if I can help out just a little bit. I think the answer is yes for two reasons. One kind of in the short term and one in the long term. Let's start with the long term. Death. Jesus' rising from the dead, his resurrection, is what allows you and I to have, as they refer to it, the hope of the resurrection. This idea that we died with Christ and we are going to rise with Christ. That is, we died with Christ in our baptism, and so we are going to rise with Christ. That just like God called Jesus out of the grave, you and I, as believers, we have that same thing's going to happen to us, that Jesus is going to call to us in our graves and rise us out. And if you are thinking, if you're not catching that, you might just remind yourself what that would be like if you had no faith. People that have no faith and they are confronted with death, all they've got is death and the stories that led up to it. That's why they have celebrations of life, which is a wonderful thing, of course, to remind yourself of great stories of the deceased. But if you have no faith, that's it. You're done. You've got this celebration of life, and you have death, and we're done. That's it. And after, a couple months, you know, you can't even remember what the person sounded like. It's over. But Jesus' resurrection tells us that no. Death is not the end. It's just not the end of the book, end of a chapter. Life will go on. You and I will be reunited with our loved ones who have also believed. And so life continues. That I think is enough reason to celebrate the Lord's resurrection. But there is a short term, I think, an immediate benefit too. Jesus told his disciples once that he had come to earth that they might have life and have it abundantly. Now, abundant life there, that he's not referring to material prosperity. He's referring to a meaningful, contented, purposeful life. You know, what life is really intended to be for all of us. And most importantly, Jesus said that he came to offer us this life regardless of our circumstances. In other words, that life was open to us whether we were rich or poor, whether we have a good boss or a lousy boss, whether we even have a job or don't have a job, whether we, have people around us that love and care for us or we don't. Jesus offers us this abundant life. He says, if you are my disciple, my student, if you will allow me to teach you, I can teach you, I can lead you into this abundant life. See, the resurrection matters with that because if there is no resurrection, Jesus is just another teacher. And Jesus is not just another teacher. He's not just some guy who came up with, well, this is a nice way to live. The resurrection tells us, proves to us that Jesus was who he says he was, divine, the Son of God. And who knows you better than God? Who knows your inside, knows you inside out, as the psalmist says, God formed us when we were still in the womb. He knows us that intimately. He knows us. And so when Jesus is telling us, hey, here's how to live, like he knows what he's talking about because he knows us. And yes, I would admit some of it sounds strange to us. Some of it sounds awfully difficult. When Jesus says to us, you really ought to love your enemy. You really ought to forgive your enemy. You ought to make sure that you give to other people. You need to make sure that your focus is out towards other people, not in towards yourself. I know those are hard things to hear and sometimes hard to put into practice, but the resurrection tells us that Jesus is right about that and all of it. And so as you go through today, maybe you don't feel it. Maybe we got to sing the Gloria today for the first time in 6 weeks. Maybe it's like, okay, yeah, right. Maybe that doesn't matter to you. Maybe it's not a feeling today. But I do hope that you'll appreciate the fact that the faith that you have allows you this abundant life now, right now, and after you die. And what greater thing is there to celebrate than the resurrection of our Lord?